This is the Mind Growth Mission podcast with David Schweik.
I've been chasing all these dreams, I'm getting very close. Your work shouldn't feel like work if you really love it. If you set and you know your worth, then think if it's worth it. But I do count my blessings first, so you know I'm grateful every night. But watch me, baby, I'ma take it there. Tell ya I'ma stay the path. Tell ya I've been chasing all these dreams, I'm getting very close. Here we go. Your work shouldn't feel like work if you really love it. If you set and you know your worth, then think if it's worth it. But I do count my blessings first, so you
This
know
is the
I'm
Mind
grateful
Growth
every
Mission
night.
podcast. This is David Schweik. I have a very special guest. First and foremost, he's a husband and a father, but he's also a former professional rugby player, still involved with rugby, doing a lot for that community. And also he's in sales currently. So this guy is super well-rounded. Matt Hughston, say what's up, man.
Hey, appreciate you. Thanks, David, for having me, man. Thanks for having me.
So glad to have this guy here. I know this guy through a good friend of mine. It's another Charlotte connection. But it's one of those connections that you get when you got that love for somebody and they're like, I'm going to put you on a good friend because I just know he's good people like you. And our buddy Abe was like, y'all two should get up, man. Like, this guy's got a lot to offer.
Throwing me under the bus, Abe. Appreciate that.
And Abe let me know a little bit about his personal life, which I think is going to be very important to this story here. And
Abe was my best man at my wedding.
There we go.
Yeah,
and, when you think about small world, sometimes these things happen in other cities, other states, whatever. This guy's been all over the place, but his home base has been Charlotte. Yeah, we haven't got together too much, too often, but he's a guy I respect and already knew what he was about. But to learn more from him here lately has really got me hyped up for this today. A lot of y'all are going to get a lot out of this and really see how things evolve once you put your passion into it, but also coming from a rough and tough time and really getting into what you're about and who you are. So tell me, man, like, for you, the early Matt Hughston, what was that like, man? Yeah, exactly. So what was that like?
I mean, hey, man, I've been blessed. I had a great upkeeping. I have my mother and father. They're still together. I couldn't ask for more, right? They spent every dollar to get me where I needed to be, in the right classroom, the right environment. So, I wasn't the richest kid. I definitely didn't, get the shopping sprees or the nice new cars, but I didn't need it, right? I'm beyond blessed with that. So, very blessed on the way I was brought up. I'm a younger brother to an older brother, which you learn a lot of things watching an older sibling go and stump and fall in front of you and make their trouble, but definitely followed along in a couple of those pathways as well. So, but I mean, what do you want to start? I mean, we can go all the way back to diapers, or we can go like where rugby started, or
yeah, for sure. Want to get into the rugby because I think that's a big part of your life and a big part of why you give back now, and especially to that community and just people and humans. But that's where it kind of starts, I think, for you. So maybe give us a timeline of that. But I know you were one of those kids that might have gotten to some mischief, from what Abe had told me. So I want to learn more about the young Matt and what he was like. What would people have said about you?
Well, hopefully they would. I mean, I think everybody would have loved me, but I mean, definitely a good time. You always, right? But I mean, put it this way: my mom and dad wouldn't allow me to hang out with Abe for a long time. So I mean, we were banned from the start from hanging out with each other. So, and he lives 6 houses down. So he ended up quickly being my best friend, my partner in crime, and I mean, we were riding BMXs around. He had this Ninja Turtle bike. It was ridiculous. But fast forward from there, man, we grew up definitely getting a lot of mischief in high school. But, I mean, we pushed each other. We were great at all the sports because my older brother would be playing lacrosse and introduce us, or basketball. And Abe was a really good wrestler, and we were always going at it, So, I mean, we pushed each other really big in lacrosse. I taught him that game. Don't let him say anything different. But he still plays, too, and we love it. But rugby kind of was my passion, that spring sport or whatever it was.
Did your brother introduce you to that?
No. I was the only person in my family who found the rugby ball. And
Well, I was about to say, growing up in the Carolinas, not a lot of people gear towards rugby, right? It's more like the football, the baseball, the basketball. That's what the Carolinas are known for, really.
Yeah.
And even wrestling, and to some extent. Luckily, we come from a place where there's a ton of great athletes.
Oh, yeah.
So whatever you get into,
Breeding
there's going to be
ground,
competition. But not many people think about how someone gets into rugby being from certain places, because when I think rugby, especially earlier in life, I would think like New Zealand or Fiji or whatever those teams are overseas. South Africa.
It's funny you say it because the way I found it is I lost all the other sports and I got in trouble. And I'll tell you the story, of course.
I need to hear that.
But that's how I started. Like there was rugby where I was in high school, 10 years ago or plus, is totally different from what it is now. We have professional league now. It's still way behind the rest of the world, which my agency and I'll go into how we're trying to correct that and get us up to speed. But it wasn't even in our high school, so. But that also was the key for me to find the game because, and you'll hear the story, but I ended up losing all my sports, couldn't play for my school, ended up leaving my high school, like running away because I was getting in so much trouble and had scholarships to D1, D2, full rides and stuff lined up even from my sophomore year in lacrosse, which is not really heard of a lot. And ended up, long story short, did the right thing and paid the ultimate price. But that actually led me to rugby, and that changed my life, and it was exactly what I needed. Every cultivation of sports, what I've been good at, wrestling, football, tackling, throwing, basketball, all blends to rugby. And this is natural, and it saved my life. And I guess we'll talk about it, right? So when I was
get into it, man.
When I was in high school, I was of course 3-sport athlete, captain of every team, even since junior years. Really blessed, to have be an athlete. Wasn't a great student because I didn't care about it. That wasn't my thing. I just wanted a 2.0 to play, right? And so. Let me get that voice going. So was playing. Ended up wrestling with Abe, playing football in the fall, wrestling in the winter, and then playing lacrosse my freshman and sophomore year. And I was really good at all three. Football probably not even probably 3 out of that, but I had some scholarships too. Looks for strong safety and receiver. But long story short is I went to there's a high school drinking party that happened, and it was finally my generation. I always been partying with my older brother. He was 3 years above. Then Abe and the boys. Y'all are 2 years above us, right? And then I had friends in the other grade, and so it's finally my senior year, and my grade was behind. Times have changed, man. You can't just go out and hazing rituals and stuff that you went through. That's not allowed anymore, right? So. The generations are changing, right? Good and bads, right? But this was our first drinking party, and so happened at another captain, 3 captains.
Are we talking about high school?
We're talking about high school.
Okay.
And so this is a drinking party that happened in high school or senior year, and long story short, the JV guy got drunk. He went in the backyard, passed out in the bush. His 3 friends he came with freaked out. Called his mom. Mom, of course, called the police. Amber Alert went out in 2 hours, and it takes 24. So they broke protocol because this is a privileged white neighborhood, just to be honest, right? And so a Amber Alert call went out to 2,000 families that night with Providence, and he just showed up the next day out of the bushes, unscathed, just well rested, right? He just had a great sleep, but everybody ditched the house, and it was my buddy who was my captain as well beside me, and I just was remembering my varsity coaches, all the lessons you hear in life that, hey, you protect that guy, you're the big brother, that's your little brother, do the right thing, right? Don't just hit the gun and protect your own ass. And man, I learned the hardest lesson of my life, and it actually has made me to what I am today in that sense of you can't do the right thing all the time. And that's the hard thing about this world we live in, because not everybody has the loyalty and the honor and those characteristics that you're trying to pull, as you. I'm not saying don't be that light, but be careful about who you are doing it for, because you got to evaluate, right? You got to evaluate your risk. You got to evaluate what you put out. I definitely don't. I'm not scared to help others. I think I never will say no to anybody who reaches out or needs a conversation or help, and especially with the agency, any kind of young player, you're never going to hear a no from me. But if I got to be smarter how much I'm going to put my reputation online, how much I'm going to take your fall. Because if I haven't seen that loyalty in you or those same characteristics, then you're probably not a good investment, right? And that's really where now I think I've taken that into being an agent, right? And is quickly evaluating these kids head to toe and what's the true holistic approach. Who's this guy on and off the field, right? Like, is this guy sweeping the locker room? Is this guy doing that extra stuff? Going to bat for his teammates, that guy will be successful in life, right?
Now, do you think those things can be taught?
Yeah, 100%. I've learned a lot of them too going through my process. I think I had a lot
Exactly.
of some of those baseline things, but I had to relearn that later in my rugby career too, and that's what made me a better, well-rounded leader too. And I'll kind of get there eventually. But going back to that high school story is, 10 cops show up, freaking K9s are out, helicopters circling this thing. We're trying to find this guy. And of course, he came back the next day. There's officers in the high school. They're taking 15, 16 kids with no parent legal guidance or counselors or guardians, and they're forcing them to tell them what happened, who bought all this beer, blah blah. And then, dude, they're just throwing it. He did it. He's the captain, Matt Hughston. He's the biggest, baddest dude. Like, blah blah. And yeah, I'm not a church mouse. I did not buy any alcohol for anybody that time. I used my brother's fake ID or his real ID and bought myself some. I didn't share it, but what I did is I chose to do the right thing. What we've been preached, and we preach our kids and all that stuff, is to look out for that guy when shit hits the fan. Take ownership, right? Responsibility. And I did that, and it cost me about everything. And fast forward, and that's a tough time to learn that, where I'm not doing great in school. I'm hanging on to a scholarship for my future, and thank God I have a strong mother, Debbie Hughston. I love you forever. But at the end of the day, I was going to the SEALs. I ran away from high school. I was getting in trouble every day, and anybody who would get caught with marijuana in their car, Matt Hughston put it there. And my reputation was not good. I didn't do it, but the damage is done. I'm getting pulled out of class.
Leading up to the party or after?
I'm talking after. After. I'm the black sheep now.
So you started to accept that identity almost, maybe?
No, I think maybe I was trying to maybe chase that identity early before this party. And then when I was marked with it, maybe you're like, fuck, I don't like this,
Okay.
So in hindsight, that's kind of
that
like
party actually made you not want to accept it, but you were chasing after something prior, and then it led you to a circumstance that it was unheard of, unimaginable, right? And then it happens, and it totally changes the trajectory of where your life's going. And life could have just went easy peasy for you and just went that college, direction.
Played a little football. Wouldn't have never played a sport again in my life, right? And
so this is why I do this, man, because there's these instances in our life that change the whole trajectory, but you learn so much from that painful time, and it molds you into all these other things. So tell me where that kind of spun off, because now you got people basically calling you out, saying you're the guy,
every
you're
day
affiliated with it.
Every other day, I was getting pulled out of my first period class because something. And half of the time it's my fault. Yeah, man, I was fucking in the gutter, man. I just lost all my scholarships. I'm still going to this high school. The high school football coach just kicks me off the team trying to protect his own ass, and then eventually that backfires in his face. But nobody all of a sudden has my back. The only person who had my back was my mom and my dad. And that's still tough for them. They're an embarrassment of the community. I was in USA Today magazine on a front article after this happened. Why is our high school athletes still drinking? Matt Hughston, this captain.
That's one way to hurt that rep pretty quickly.
Think about, that's a national magazine. Think about my family, bro. My family comes from a lineage of high sports, Clemson football, full rides, basketball, Phil Houston Award. There's a scholarship My uncle broke his neck in high school football for Garinger and had a scholarship for 31 years. The best of the best would come and speak, and we give it to the best. I mean, like a lineage of sports, and now I've tarnished it. I mean, I couldn't even look my grandmother in the face, right? Those tough times, man. And so I kept getting in trouble, kept doing this, and I eventually just ran away one day from high school, and I jumped to the parking lot. They were trying to chase me. Of course, Dustin they're all on the right. Matt Hughston running. Oh man, he's fast. I'm gonna see ya. Bye. Went through the freaking forest, ran all the way to my buddy's house, who was 2 years above me. So graduated high school. He's about to pack up and go to his second deployment in Afghanistan, and he's at his house for a week, and there's nobody there. And so I stay there for a week. Turn my phone off. My mom's freaking out, and I call her. And I tell her, I was like, hey, I signed up for the Navy SEALs. I'm gonna ship out here at the end of the month. Like, I don't need to be here. I fucked up. Like that's not. I can't be in the society. And I was hitting every edge, man. Like I was really not going down a good path. And then she signed me up for a Christian school. And she said, Matt, I've done so much work. You promised me at least get your GED, at least finish your high school. You got 6 hours left. And I was like, I got you already enrolled in this Grace Academy downtown Matthews. It's a church school. I mean, I graduated with like 80 people. And I've showed up 6 hours a week. Of course, I was up to all types of mischief during that time. But I finished that school because of my mom. And thank God I did, because during that time, I couldn't play any sports. And all I was itching for is to play something. Oh, man. And my best friend, Jordan Threet, shout out to my boy, he was like, yo, this is a community rugby team. It's not a part of a school. You can come out and play, bro. The first game I ever came out, I played for 5 minutes, and I clothesline this kid, and I pop up thinking I made a big tackle, and it was a Canadian international touring high school side. They were good, and these dudes were here, and they started trying to fight me. And I was like, what this sport? And then my boy stepped in front of me and started fighting for me. I was like, what game is this? And I got a red card and ejected from my first match ever, 5 minutes in. Wow. And my head coach, he's South African, he was like, the kid had no clue what he's doing, just dye it to a yellow so he can play the next day. And so they did, and then from now on, I loved it. And fast forward the next month, I was playing a tournament, and ECU was there, their team was there. And this guy, Tom Francisco, and Junior Bourgeois, they came up to me and I'm like, hey, you going to college? And I was like, no, I'm going to SEALs. And they're like, nah, well, you should come to college and get an education. I was like, nah, I'm good. And they're like, what's your mother's number? And they called my mom. And of course, my mom drove me up the very next day up to ECU. They snuck me in the back door with everything that was going on. They knew the admissions counselor. I sat with them, had a couple interviews, and I got in. And the first month of college, I pledged the fraternity, Chi Phi, and then I was also a rugby rookie. And so that's pretty much pledging as well. And I was in school. And so pretty much, long story short, and this is the best part. And then I was playing for the rugby team, and then I got selected for the U20 USA team, and we played a World Cup in Kenya, Africa at the back end of the semester. I was a knucklehead and didn't tell all but 2 of my professors out of 6 that I left for a month and a half, and I fell out of all my classes. So I was on cloud 9. You just played for USA, coming back, found my sport, and I come back, and then I'm like, oh crap, and I just fell out, so I'm right back home.
Yeah, you had like an out-of-body experience.
So, and you're going up, and then bam, just flow, because I was out of control. I didn't know. I wasn't sharp. I wasn't mature, and so I had to do my work, sat out a semester, and then I had an opportunity to go to Life University, to go to full rugby. Not really a university, big full. They don't have none of that, right? Like that's just. That's a whole nother pathway, and that was a big choice in my life. And then the other one was at the last second they allowed me back at ECU, and I did like the big university. I did like all the work I just did with the fraternity, with the rugby team. I had friends there, and I chose to go back to ECU, and I don't regret it at all. And it was a great time, and man, I played a lot of good rugby, but it was limited. It was grassroots rugby, man. It wasn't even really a pathway to be seen with USA Rugby. And that started really my journey of spending every dollar, every dime to be seen, to be playing against that guy they talk about and prove myself against him. And I would always do it. It's all about, life is all about your reputation, I think. And at the end of the day, it's either you have a decision to show the fuck up or you don't, and you let yourself slip, right? And it's just a mental decision at the end of the day. And it goes into why we're here talking about this, right? Is every day you have an opportunity to start delivering, or you can take that easy shortcut and you can make reasons why that's okay with yourself. The more you start leaning to one side or the other is the product at the end of the day, what you get, right? And that kind of just goes down a whole funnel of what we want to talk about. But that's real quick my high school and how I found rugby kind of pathway, and it led to professional and all that stuff like that.
There's so much there, man. I mean, so much. I really want to speak about your mom, but now that we're at this point, we'll come back to your mom. Your mindset, it seemed like, is you wanted to be part of that elite group. You wanted to play the best, be the most competitive individual out there. You were intense.
Yeah.
So that mindset just trickled into like personal life too. That's why you were doing stuff that's edgy, and lashing out in other ways. Is because like I want that in my sports life, like in my mental
I think it's all personal.
fortitude, right?
Yeah, I think it's.
But that's what I'm saying. It all
100%
comes around.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of bleeds into other things sometimes. So you really got to do a lot of introspection, a lot of looking inward. Where do I want to be? What type of person do I want to be? Who do I want to be? Who am I? Type of outlook. And that comes later for most of us in life.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely happened for me, man. I mean, college days were wild, partying every weekend for sure. Like that's what it was. But that's not the identity I wanted. Mm-hmm. But I'm sure that's what I was looked at.
I didn't even know what I wanted back then. You know, right? I just wanted to have a good time and play rugby. That's it.
And figuring things out.
And that's a lot of the advice I give now, like young athletes and people who kind of reach out who want advice is that identity type of thing, right? Well, I'm just blanking. Remind me, what did you just say about? Sorry, I just.
Being the most competitive.
The competitive mindset, yeah. So that competitive mindset goes into of are you personally disturbed about where you're at? Are you uncomfortable? Are you not happy with how things are going? And when I graduated college, big change, party's over, come back, started working for Bank of America. But man, I quickly realized that I hated sitting behind a computer in a cubicle every day. And I knew that was not what I needed to be doing, but I needed that piece to shoot me forward. And that's where now like we can talk about those hard decisions you made to change your surroundings. And that's what I look at that time. And honestly, I'm in a time like that right now. I think it's back to that uncomfortable, I'm tired of where I'm at kind of mindset. Time to start making hard decisions every single day to get you out of it, and I've started that process. But back in the day, it was, before work, I'm seeing all these guys playing overseas. I'm seeing these USA teams being selected. I'm not on it because they don't even know me. They don't know Charlotte. They don't know any of what's out here. They never see it. It's not a big D1 school. It's not an Ivy League. It's not a under the spotlight type place. And so I would wake up every morning at 5 a.m, whatever, drive my car, lived out of my car at that time. I lived at my parents' house. Dated my wife back in the day, and she lived across the street almost. So I was just sleeping in that bed, living out of my car, driving downtown. And I remember running down the damn light rail, 5 a.m, raining, just running to the gym, putting in the shift every day, right? And just didn't know where I was going. But I knew I hated it. I hated what I'm doing right now. And I tell these young athletes, and I tell myself constantly, is it's okay to hate yourself. It really is. It's okay to hate yourself. You got to love yourself too. But if you just love yourself all the time, you're living in a la la land. You're comfortable. You're too comfortable, man. You want passion comes from something dislodged. Passion can come from something that you truly believe needs to be done or how it should be going, and it disturbs you. It's not that way. And then now it's all about, are you an action person? Are you a doer? Or are you a donor? And so
I love it, bro. Man, it's taking me there. It's making me think about like life's journey and all the experiences you have to go through to get to where you are. 100%. There's so many decisions we have to make, and at those times we might think it's an okay decision, but an okay decision typically doesn't cut it, right? You really have to be certain, and that takes a lot of that trial and error.
And even go deeper on that, like you say, it's an okay decision. What does that say to you? That you probably thought of a harder, better decision that's going to take a whole.
You took the easy out,
and that's okay because I still get this done, but I save some time. No, yeah, exactly, right? Like, and when you start getting that animal mindset, man, that's when you start saying, you know what, that's harder. This warm up's harder to do in the gym. Instead of me just walking on a treadmill for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, checking my phone because I need to warm up. How about you go grab that slam ball and throw it at your mate and wrestle him for 10 minutes and see how much more warmed up you are. Like, those little decisions, and you can compare them always to the gym, is when you start winning or losing your days, right? Like, that's, like, hey man, like, the extra minute. I got a mate real quick I want to tell you about. His name's Jordan Kaluska. He's a Green Beret. Oh, wow. And so this guy's
hardcore.
This guy's a badass. Yeah. He's a commander in a Green Beret. So he like when they're going to go on a mission, he tells everybody what to take, how much, how many people are going to freaking kill, kind of thing like that. He's been there, done that.
Yeah, it's intense. It's the top of the top.
Oh, 100%. And so he says, and this is a good kind of mental test they do right in basic almost, and they line everybody up and they're like, hey, who can do the most push-ups here? Who do you think? And all these dudes have been like preparing for Army basic, berets, SEAL school, whatever. And you get a couple, and then they send their top up. Then they start doing push-ups, and you start seeing people fall out at even numbers and multiples of 5. And so long story short, they go down, and the last 3 were 80, 95, and like 103 or like 105. And then the sergeant goes up, and he's like, "What is it? What is the pattern? What did you notice?" And he's like, everybody chooses when they stop. Right? What's comfortable for you to actually stop? Yeah. It's not the fucking number. No, mate. That's just something you can agree upon to get done. Right? And so his slogan, I swear I say to myself every time I'm lifting, is one more. Do one more. Because it's not for you. Because whatever you just agreed upon is just here, right? Your muscles are fine. Your muscles can keep going. You know what I'm saying? And that's when you start. It's like that David Goggins type mindset, right?
Oh,
and
you start the process, man.
Yeah,
it's the process. So you got to fall in love with the process. And I was actually just listening to Ed Milet, who talks about the power of one more. But he interviewed Matthew McConaughey recently. And Matthew McConaughey was on a film set with another great actor for his Dallas Buyers Club, right? And they're shooting for weeks and whatnot. And then there's one day where they realize, they don't realize actually, but they're like, all right, that's a wrap. And they're like, no, we got to keep shooting, right? Like their mindset, him and Jared Leto, was like, we got to keep shooting because like they haven't had the ability to connect off set yet. Yeah. They were just so into the process, so into their character about making this an impactful movie. They didn't even realize it was like the final day. Yeah, they thought they were gonna still be shooting and get that friendship going. Because like they could see
that's that culture too.
And that's one of those things where like some people just get so into the process, and that's where their best work comes, bro. And I realize that when I hear stories like you just told, and like that, and then the David Goggins mindset. Yeah, man. How do you think this dude's able to run so much and then fought through being fat to run and do 3 hell weeks,
still going, man.
and then be a runner and after all that, and talk about how painful it was, how like he fractured his foot up and everything. But like it's the process. It's like I know I can keep going. Yeah. Like inside internally, he's not counting. He's not making it a number. He's like, I know I can keep going.
And once people learn that kind of mindset, it's I bet that's not even the most impressive thing he says he's probably done. It's probably him creating a big ass business and doing all that little stuff that he's not good at, right? That's the harder stuff where change is like what you're doing. Like you took this idea and now you're making it happen. You're doing hard decisions to create it bigger, better, stronger, and that when we start taking ownership, passion about what we're doing in life, then it's not working anymore, right? And you're going, right. You're not. This is not final cut. We still got more. I like that. I like that a lot.
There's so much, man. There's so much to life, and as we do get older, though, you start to realize more that you can still accomplish and do, and that like it's not done. There's so much ahead. There's actually more ahead because now you're more aware of who you are and what you're about, and realize that like that impact you can make is out there and it's right in front of you, and you can really just step outside of your comfort zone, like you said, and make that difference within yourself, and then it starts to change other people's lives. So for you to have these realizations, go through the process, go through the heartache, the tough times, now you're leading men and you're starting groups to help other men. You're helping other men get exposed to the sport of rugby, and you're just looking out for others now. So you're making that impact, man. And, it has to start somewhere. Like, you just have to start it. And that's where people really get caught up just overthinking it, and maybe thinking it's too hard. Is the hard stuff is what's going to make the most impact.
The hardest part is the first step.
And that's usually the hardest part for people, man.
Because then you'll get a little
just
momentum.
Risk.
And let me tell you about my agency. When I played, I was lucky enough to play multiple years of professional. Played in New York, Washington, New Orleans, Columbus. I mean, all over. It was a really good time, but when I was forced to step away with COVID, and I haven't really even put out official retirement post because I feel like I'm not done with the game yet. Definitely done with professional, spending that time away from my family and just what the salaries are still right now. It's a progress, right? It's a project, but it's moving the right direction. And so when I left, I wanted to start a vessel where I didn't lose all my connections that I've forged over the last 10 plus years, right? And I worked my ass off to get the respect from these guys and these coaches and the national team and played my ass off and put my body on the line every weekend and put my family away and some sacrifices to do what I did, right? And so I didn't see, it would be stupid to walk away from that. And so we started a high performance management group, me and a colleague of mine, and we really started out with 3 guys, and we all played rugby together and knew the game, and one of them's a lawyer, the other one is good with investments and stuff like that, but now it's really honed into me and this lawyer. We're really trying to create a vessel where we are an advocate of the game. We're a catalyst of exploding American rugby, and we start with the best assets it has is the players, right? And so I've gone through the ranks. I've had to forge pathways, and I've been treated good and I've been treated bad, and there's things I've learned and that I can pass on, and a lot of guys can avoid, right? And so a lot of it's mindset. I mean, a lot of it's, a lot of what I'm now focusing on is not the top guys in the league. It's the next generation guys and learning all the lessons of, what we're talking about today and avoiding this and, hey, watch out for this. You're being a little loose to here. And I wish I had somebody like that, right? And I would have avoided a lot of things and really would have been in a different spot. And I tell these guys, you got a business of one person, and this really can go to everybody. Everybody has your own brand, right? If you are the only employee, right? If you're an employee of one, a company of one, reach out for help, man. Get somebody to help in your corner, right? And that's what we do for these athletes. Is now we give them a couple more guys talking about them, promoting them, putting them on sponsorships, putting some extra money in their pocket, making them feel professional, and that's what will relate as better play on the field. Absolutely.
I respect the hell out of that, because I know that's a tough journey for these kids and these men, and for you to be kind of away from it the way you want to be, maybe like playing professionally and whatnot, you're still able to make that impact for other people's lives and change their lives, man, and totally respect that. Another thing too, I want to talk more about the agency here in a minute.
Yep.
But what lessons did you learn from your mother that have brought that out of you? Because I feel like that ties into how she looked out for you, and now you're looking out for these men, right? So tie that in a little.
Shout out to Debs, Mama Dukes, right? The biggest thing is my mom never gave up. That's the biggest thing. I mean, and that's the most important thing that I'll take away and give my son Jack, is, I'm going to be there always. And no matter how shitty I am and how low I've dragged the Hughston name at some points, she never cared. She just wanted me to be safe and me going forward, right? And doing everything she could. The next day she's on the phones calling. It's just, I mean, I owe everything to her and my dad too. I mean, he's been there every step of the way, understanding man, right? Like, and what they've taught me is to one, express myself. Don't bullshit myself, right? Like, don't do something that you don't want to do, right? Like, you're a talented guy, you're a good looking guy. Don't settle, right? Yeah. Make sure all your moments count. And the biggest thing is the sacrifices that she's made to allow me to even have a chance. And damn, how many chances have I burned through, you know, and still having a chance and fighting to be on top, talking my name up, oh, my Maddie, you know. So no, I mean, I owe everything to her. She's an amazing woman. So
well, think about it, that love that you're taking, that she had for you, and maybe putting it in these men that maybe didn't have a figure like that.
Absolutely.
That could be life changing, right?
Absolutely.
So like, you never know the impact you can make just through like the impact somebody else has made for you, and you take that energy and put it on somebody else. And yeah. I think that kind of relates to like what you're doing now. Like, you had these chances, you had these shots, and you burned through some, but now it's like my time to make up for that. You know what I mean? But my time to make up for that. And dude, if she wasn't there to do that, then what would life be like?
Yeah, it'd be totally different. I mean, I'd be gone. For sure, man. For
exactly,
sure,
bro.
And a lot of things too is a lot of people. I think more people need to be more genuine and real, and say the hard shit. I mean, there is a line to it, and I probably cross it with a lot of my friends who are going to be watching this, and they're like, "Yeah, you're an asshole sometimes." But at the end of the day, you ask me a question, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. You know what I'm saying? I've lived too long. I don't have time to lead somebody astray from what the truth is. And I think that's the most important thing. The minute we can accept who we are, and the minute where we accept where we are in life, where we suck, what we have going for us, what our X factors is, because that's important too. You got to understand what makes you good, but you got to focus on your weaknesses. You can't reason it. You can't soften the thing. You got to identify. You got to claim it. The minute, think about it. You meet somebody and they're like, man, you know they're somewhat successful. You know they have something going on or going to it, but because they're talking, they're owning what they suck at. They're owning their mistakes. They're able to talk freely about it. That's a person that you want to be around, right? Mm-hmm. And that empowers you. Of course, you can take that too far where they just accept everything, you know. But that's not what we're talking about, right? That's a well-rounded person. And one thing I kind of wanted to just make sure we hit on is one of the hardest lessons, other than that high school kind of thing, is I learned in sports, and thank God for sports, because I mean, like, there's so many great lessons and everything. But I've only been cut from one team, and I like to tell this story because I take pride in that. Like, I've never been. I've tried out for a team I've been cut from, except for the Olympic team, and I was lucky enough to be called into the Olympic Rio camp back in the day, 2016. And was grinding and working my ass off. And this is with the time I was living out of my car and just sleeping on a couch out in Abe's house. And shout out to those boys giving me a truck just to make practices and stuff. Just patching it together. Wanted it more than anything. And just paying money to go to a camp that didn't even mean shit in Florida. But the coaches were there, so I was there. Right, just literally emptying my bank account because I wanted it. I didn't care what it was. I was gonna get it, and I got to like the final cuts, and I got cut. And Chris Brown's the coach here. I'm gonna get you on to have on the show here. Amazing individual, but man, he is a mental beast. And the reason they cut me is a great advice for everybody. They said I was too out of balance, and what they meant by that is they presented and say, "Hey Matt, how's your wife doing? How's your family back home?" And I was like, "They're fantastic. What do you mean? Like, they're great. Talk about my performance. Like, why am I in here?" And they're like, "When's the last time you like talked to her? How does she feel about all this? You know, it's fantastic. What are you talking about? Like, what does that do with me?" And the meaning, what there was is, I was so hard one way. I was burning everything behind me. I was using everybody around me to get to that goal, and that does get you there, but it doesn't make you the best when you're there. Mm-hmm. And that was the hardest lesson I've learned at a high level. Is what he meant is, have you paid your bills? Did you go to church or whatever your regimen is? Are you doing good at work? You know, are you taking care of your son? Are you doing the things that we don't talk about because that really makes you a successful person in life. That makes you balanced. That makes you level-headed when you're on a field in the Olympics, right? You're not one. I'm a ticking time bomb type of dude. I've been praying and I'm gonna kill somebody. Like that is needed, but like rugby is a thinking man's game. It's combat, but with like chess. You have your head on your shoulders because you can make a mistake. You have to catch balls. You have to be in the right position. You got to read the game. You got to be able to communicate. And so if you're too far one way and I know this is the right way, blah, 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 then you're not listening. You're not collaborating. And that was a hard lesson because I have sacrificed everything to be here. The last 3 years I've been living out of my trunk, mate. Like, you don't tell me I don't want it. And they said, Matt, we believe you. You want it more than anybody on this team, and we can see it. But you're not smooth in your drills because you're so on edge, right? Like Pistol Pete, those best ballers or whatever, they're fluid. You're just catching them. They look like they don't have a stress in the world, and the best athletes make it look easy. And I'll quote my man Abe Al-Baba on that one. If you're a great athlete, you make it look easy. You're not stressing on your face. You're not doing this. When you're doing your job, if you're giving a presentation in front of a group of people, you're not stressed. You're in balance. You're in control. And that's what that lesson was.
So do you think that's a sense of gratitude for things in your life? Maybe you didn't have that gratitude yet?
Yeah, or knowing what's behind you and what's driving you and knowing that I've taken care of my family. My wife and I talked before this, and our relationship's stronger than ever. Because that makes you more of a whole person what you're doing, right? You can't be great if you're going through a divorce. Trust me, you ain't going to be great. Like, you are going to be stressed. You're just not sleeping. You know what I'm saying? Like, and divorce is one thing, right? Or if you're going through a tax, thing, or if you're getting fired, you're not the best that you can be because you're not taking care of all your little bases around you, right? If that makes sense to you.
100%, man. There's so much substance into everything you've said so far already that it's like, where do I go? Honestly, man, this is hard.
So let's go there. Well, let's talk about you, Dave.
Nah. This is about you, bro. It's about you and what you're bringing to the table, which is a ton. And that's the key, man. It's like you took all these things as learning moments as well. That's where a lot of us get caught up. We're like, I'm not worth anything, or I'm not that person that's supposed to be
that didn't work
here,
out because of this guy, or
and then you start making those excuses for that. So what I'm hearing is that you're taking these hardships, these tough times, and learning from each one of them, and it sticks with you, right? And now that's a driving force in of itself. So not only do you have to be intentional to change, but you need some of these things to happen to get you where you are now, And a lot of people do sit on the sidelines there, man. Once they're called out, they're just out. They're like deuces, fight or flight mentality, and that's key, man. And I, like you said, learning a lot from athletics. That's true. It's not only the stuff we've been talking about. I mean, it is like the ultimate team sport, rugby, right?
Yeah.
You're learning how to navigate through team and relationships and everything else, right? With that, but that's a hardcore sport, man. You went from playing all these other sports, and then this sport led you on a journey.
Great.
How tight knit is that community? Did you see a lot of people that were struggling to maybe be balanced as well in your journey through it?
Yeah, man.
Were a lot of people just so intense and like maybe not grasping life in the way that the coach said, and he knew that was a determinant because he sees that so much out of those athletes? Like, what was that?
I mean, like, rugby is just such an inclusive sport. The culture, so there's a book called Legacy, and so any businessman, any sports person should go read it, and it's really good, and it talks about the New Zealand, which are the number one in the world, usually always. This is their number one sport. And while they're so good, they're the most successful sports organization in the history of sports. They're like 83% win percentage. It's unreal. Yeah. And why is because of culture. And that's all they preach. And there's like 9 lessons they go through in this book. And it's all about being humble, egos, being able to work with your neighbor, and it goes into the stuff I learned with the game. Is like they call it sweeping the shed. And so you would, in rugby, your best player, who's probably your captain, he's got all the interviews, he's got whatever, he'll probably be the last one out of your locker room. And it's because he's making sure that his team doesn't leave behind a dirty locker room. He's the one sweeping on the floor. And so, like, you'll see a lot of rugby teams, good rugby teams, that the pledges or the rookies, they're not doing the work. They're forced to watch how this is done. And it changes, flips it on its head. I got the 100 cap, guy who's making millions of dollars a year. He's sweeping my locker out, making sure my shit's folded and stuff like that. Talk about what your mind's at. Oh, okay, I'm here. Right? And that's what that means, setting the example, right? And then and you hear stories all day, and I learned that later in my career, picking up on the sideline when I leave the sideline. I'll do that. I still do that, right? Leaving, and that goes into like the Bill Gates CEO, like he'll never leave a dirty dish in his sink before he goes to bed. It's those types of things you can start ironing into your soul and your personality that's going to just change yourself, because it's not the picking up of the trash every time. It's the person watching you do it, and they're like, shit, who the fuck is this guy, David? No, like, why are you picking up other people's trash? Because it's my responsibility, right? Like, I'm taking ownership of this situation and this environment and this culture because my name's a part of it.
You leave it better than you left it. Right?
And that's another lesson. Leave the jersey better than you found it, right?
Better than you found it.
Yeah, 100%. And it goes on, and there's so many good lessons. Great book for people looking for something out there to kind of flip your mindset and about culture and empowering other people and setting examples and stuff like that. And
I love that, bro. I mean, everything you just said is also a controllable.
Oh, man.
So when you focus on your controllables, especially the small things, they end up becoming things that matter in your life in other ways, right? Because it feeds into everything else you're doing and how you care for things. And it's so important. And it's so easy to get away from that stuff. Let's be honest. I mean, we all like take a few days off or a couple of weeks off with that one routine thing that we had that we should be doing, right? Like we all get there, and then we got to really challenge ourselves to be on point with that stuff and then step it back up, right? Absolutely. So is there anything you had to change in your more recent years?
Yeah, actually, and that's why I almost feel guilty sitting up here talking about my successes, because and the overall things is I'm nowhere close to what I want to be, and this is an ongoing journey, and I feel like I'm behind, right? And so I've had a hard check. I've had success. I work for QC Kinetics. We do like stem cells and stuff like that for regeneration of like tissues and arthritic joints or sports injuries. And I've learned a lot about selling and the personal connection and emotional intelligence and reading the rooms and stuff and transactional sales, which I love. I'm really addicted to it. But at the end of the day, it's still about changing people's lives, right? And that's why I can do that job well. And that's why I want to make this agency, be my full time one day, and that's the goal. And so, what I'm doing recently is hard looks in the mirror, right? Checking myself, like in your partying and your family time and my work at it's those balanceables, right? We call them balanceables. There's balanceables, right? So I haven't been performing the best in my job because it's a poor economy. That's a fucking excuse, mate. Right? I haven't been because I haven't been getting a lot of people through the door. It's a fucking excuse, right? And now I've set back and I've accepted it, and I'm just like, all right, it's time to change my surroundings. I'm not happy with where I'm at currently, and nothing will change in your lives out there until you start getting angry at yourself. Like, it's okay to hate yourself a little bit. It is okay, because at the end of it, you're gonna do something, or if you don't do anything, you go see a counselor or something or go talk to a friend. And I take mental health very seriously. But if you're very unhappy with yourself and you don't like your surroundings, do something about it, right? Like, get out and tie your tennis shoes, go for a run, go organize your next day, get a good night's rest, stay away from alcohol, do something different, and take control of it. that's where I'm at now. I'm really looking for the end of this year to put myself in a better position work-wise, to make more money, better position. I've really focused on my family in the last couple of months. I'm really in a good spot with them, hopefully, right? Wife, I see you're calling me right now, but that matters, right? I can't go forward in my life and with my ambitions if I don't have my home base covered. Yes, right, and I think a lot of people skip that step in life. They talk about starting a company, and mate, you just got fired from your last job. What are you talking about, right? What has changed on your watch? I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm all for you taking a responsibility and starting a company. But what have you identified that you fucked up on?
Yeah, what have you changed since,
right? Because you're not being real with yourself yet. And if you can't be real with yourself, you're going to struggle when you get to that fourth step, that step you're not thinking about, and you hit step 17. And then, bam, you're gutted, and then you go back to step 5.
I've said this before, man. It reminds me again, though. Another level, another devil, bro. Every time you get to a certain point, there's another challenge. There's something else being thrown at you. There's something else you gotta overcome. Man.
And you know what gets you through those times is when you instill those principles, that routine, those hard decisions. That will help you with that devil on the next level. I like that term because you're prepared. Man, you've been overworking. So when you get there, now you're bring it. Eat light lunch, right? Like, absolutely. And that's a good way to think about it, right? Let's overwork now. So when we see that level, we're already on top of them, getting points, right?
As you were speaking earlier, too, it reminded me how some people talk about the dark side, like how they view the dark side.
The dark place.
And what you're saying, that can propel you to change things, but also there's ways to harness that energy to put it towards productive things, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, I think all of us have a dark side.
Oh, 100%.
You know, and
it's the little voice in the back of your head telling you why you shouldn't do something.
Yeah,
that's called the little dark voice.
And once you harness that actual energy, it is like bringing so much energy towards you not accomplishing things, but you flip it on its head, bro.
It's a game changer.
You know, and little things too, right?
And listen to it this way. A lot of people listen to that little voice in the back of the head and they listen to it. They don't talk to it. You know what I mean by that?
Yeah,
like they get commands from it. Yeah, let's go exercising. You're running a mile. You know, the finish line's a mile and a half down the line, right? Man, you know you can walk for a little bit. Like, you know, that's nobody's watching you. Or man, this kind of hurting. Like, you don't have to. You're not. You know, you're not doing
a little off that day.
And you listen to that voice because it's easy. It's comfortable. It's easy. Yeah. Who is having a conversation with that voice in your head? Why should I quit? I went out here for a goal to get better because I want a better beach body. Whatever your goal is, right? I know I can accomplish that faster if I tell you to shut the fuck up, right? Who's talking back to that voice, and that's what I mean. That's a huge part of mental battles.
Oh man, I noticed when I was doing things recently. Let's just go back to activity, right? Mm-hmm. Like being active, playing a sport, working out. Mm-hmm. I've literally had to say out loud, like, David, you can do this, man. You got these next few reps. Like when I don't feel like it. And I'm able to get through them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, when you even say it out loud, even, I mean, you know, talking to it internally is one thing, and then you can even take it a step further, say it out loud. But once you start actually doing the action, making it happen, the feeling of it, man, it's a beautiful thing. And it's easy to go to sports because that's the most, like, visual, easy thing to say. But it's any little thing in life, you know?
Absolutely.
Like, hey, I promised myself I was going to do that day, but I only half-assed it that day. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it happens, you know. But
it's all about if you accept it or if you kind of like wear it on your sleeve. And I'll tell you another kind of mindset thing that kind of I took on through my sports career is music in the gym, right? And I'm talking about headphones. People talk to me and they'll come up to me and like, hey man, how can I like work out a little bit harder? And I was like, leave your phone in the car, right? Like you always hear that stuff. But they're like, I remember I was on a professional team and they're going around, what's your favorite song to listen to in Christian weights? And they're just going around and they come to me and of course I'm a little wild on it, but I'm like, I don't listen to music. I listen to my own ambitions, right? But that's what you're talking about though, right? Like I don't need the fluff. Like a lot of we get comfortable, we lose a lot of time in the fluff, man. You don't need music at the end of the day to do work. And I guarantee you'll work out harder and more efficient because you're bored, right? Or you want to get through it, right? But But understanding to listen to yourself, you're going to be the one that gets you through hard times. At the end of the day, it's not Drake. It's not anybody. You get inspiration from them, from podcasts and stuff like that. But you got to be comfortable talking to yourself. You got to be comfortable with that person inside you. And I mean comfortable, not like I'm worshiping them. I'm talking about I'm comfortable hating on them too. I'm comfortable that knowing that, I'm not happy with what we're doing here. And that's okay. But it's not okay to just say it's okay, right? We got to start taking some action on this stuff, right?
Absolutely, man. Make those changes. And you can do that right away. And it starts with the small steps.
Yeah, man.
And that's what people get carried away with. They're like, I got to change this right away. No,
it's like the cold plunges, man.
Yeah,
Tony Robbins stuff, man.
There you go. Do that. But that'll really
That's not for the body. That's why, I love Tony Robbins, how he speaks about, cold plunges, man. He's like, I do it the first thing I do every morning. He jumps in a cold plunge.
A lot of these successful people are doing that these days and really preaching.
And it's just mindset, man. Because that's the hardest. He goes, that's the hardest thing if I can agree with 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning. It's cold outside. You just rolled out of your nice, cozy bed. You know you got this workout in front of you before work, but everything's optional in life, right? Except for work and your family. But, you don't have to go to the gym. I've been struggling with that lately, working out before work.
I couldn't tell. If y'all ain't watching this, my man's got on an ECU shirt that looks like he's half for years because he's filling that thing out pretty nice.
Let's go.
And he is a fit dude at this point. He could go out there and play some rugby. I can tell.
I got the baggie on. But I love how he talks about it because in the mindset, he goes, me just jumping there's testosterone gains and stuff. There is benefit. But it's 100% mental for him. And he goes, if I can get my brain to agree to jump my body into this icy cold water, crack in the morning, the rest of my day is a breeze.
Yeah, you're gonna make things easier.
This email crush, this meeting crush, and it's true, man. And if y'all know that working out, y'all have had that endorphin hit.
Well, let's be honest too. Somebody like Tony Robbins, they've been doing stuff to challenge themselves for 40 plus years.
100%.
So let's be honest, it
didn't come overnight.
You don't get there overnight. First of all, but second of all, it's got to start somewhere. So if you just start that one thing that you know would really help right now, that's going to feed into other things you start doing for yourself, and it may take a week, it may take a month, it may take 2 years, 10 years, whatever the case may be for whatever you're trying to accomplish. But you just got to get going, man. And that's where people get stuck.
You got to try, you got to fail. Everybody's scared to fail, man.
For sure.
That's the most important step of that. That's step 3, right? First step, getting out of bed, starting writing your shit down. I'm gonna start a company, whatever your thing is, right? Second step is you pick up the phone and you start doing things, right? Your third or fourth step is you fail. You're gonna hit no. You're talking to your wife or your friends and you're an idiot. That means you're doing something right there, right? If you start getting those kind of conversations on yourself, keep going. Oh yeah, that's your face is red. Everybody gets that feeling. I don't know how to defend myself. Yeah, this could be stupid. I feel like I need to do this, but you wake up the next day and you keep putting the other foot in front, and then a couple more steps you're gonna fail again, and then you have to learn. You got to keep wearing it, keep internalizing, and that will grow your passion as well for what you're doing. Because everything great in life is not easy. It doesn't come easy. If it was easy, you just buy it, and the shit would be everywhere. But that's like the least mental depression and stuff like that. Going through your hardships makes you appreciate things.
Yeah, and you have to consume that stuff, right? You have to be immersed in it. Think about it often. Before you go to bed, when you wake up, throughout your day. You think about your goals, your dreams, these things you're going to do. And
make sure you're doing things too before, right? Because you can think about it too much at a sense too, right? It's important, as we say, you got to turn off your rugby, or you got to turn off your job or your passion, because if you're bleeding it everywhere, one, you're going to piss off everybody talking to you because you're only talking about one thing, right? But the other thing too is you're going to burn yourself out.
Yeah.
Everybody has a great idea. Everybody could have started a company. Everybody could have fucking been a professional athlete, or they think they could have done it at some point. They had some type of thing, but the decision was made at a lot of those times that you didn't follow through with it. You just chose not to do it. Wasn't important enough, or it was too hard, or whatever your excuse that you probably made for yourself. You did it, and I do it. Everybody does it, right? And it's just what's more important, make the change that you want to see in your life. Right?
I mean, you think about it, life is just a series of choices. It's what we've already kind of determined. That's why we're at where we're at, which makes it so much simpler to think of like all the choices we can make moving forward.
And how many are
really
getting
take
made
this to the
for
next level.
you versus how many are you really making on your own? And you can probably tell that if it's a hard, uncomfortable, think about it. Ask your friend, ask your mom. That's a good decision. That's probably you're making the right decision, right? But if you're just, this is how I go. This is what we're supposed to do. Like, and it's, man, it's so easy nowadays. Technology and cultures and marketing and stuff like that.
What I've been reading lately is how like being decisive really helps people become a leader. It's just being decisive. They don't have to be right. It's just being decisive. And you take that next step. You just do it.
Doing it, right?
That's it, man.
And then being able to...
They simplify it in that regard. And when I think about it, it's like I've been one of those people to just be like, yeah, whatever, man. It's okay. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like, so once you start getting clear with that, it helps so many other things, right? That decisiveness. And that's like a learned behavior, in my opinion. It's something you can really be intentional about.
Comes from failing.
Exactly.
Comes from
exactly,
making
man.
thing
Life experiences. I mean, you're going to learn so many lessons just through failing. And the thing is, Matt, you brought it up. You're playing with Olympic athletes, Olympic level athletes, trying out with them. What are some of those other separating factors you might have noticed? You brought up a lot of good points, but I just kind of want to go here because I know you've played with some of the best. You've been around some of the best. You talked about the coach, the impact he made.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what are some of these other like separators? Because I mean, we've talked about a ton here, but there's got to be one or two other things that stand out.
I'm going to tell you a story of when I was at the OTC, and then I'm going to tell you and it kind of, I think we already touched on it, kind of
OTC,
the leadership.
A camp?
It's an Olympic Training Center in Chula Vista. Yeah. So when I was in my time with the Olympic Training Center out in California, well, let me touch on that leadership role. We touched on it. It's kind of like the guy who takes the responsibility for the greater whole. I know that that was the harder lesson I learned in life, but doing a controllable of what you've already decided to be a part of, your company picnic or whatever, is you're making sure that nobody is going home drunk or you're not in everybody's business, but you're doing the little jobs behind them, right? Cleaning up behind them. We're making sure there's trash, not a napkin flying across the thing, taking care of our earth, stuff like it sounds stupid, but that little stuff will start putting you itself into leadership positions. I learned that one through leaders are through action, not so much through words, right? When you ask a leader for advice, that's when you give them words, right? And so I've learned that through my time. But I had an awesome story when I spent like a month out in the Olympic Training Center, and that place is insane. It's just insane, right? And so you have your Olympic athletes and you have your Paralympic athletes, your Special Olympics, your blind sprinters, your everything. And
it's amazing.
And you get there, and we're getting there at like 5 a.m, and you're thinking like, I'm the first one in this bitch. You're getting into breakfast, and they feed you the awesome stuff. It's a great experience. But you got track people coming off the track. They've already done a full workout 4 a.m. Like you're not ever outworking somebody harder, and it's a dick to everybody. It's just a breeding ground for competitiveness.
Yeah.
And so I sat next to this blind long jumper. For about 3 weeks, I ate breakfast with him every night, every day in the morning, about 5:30 in the morning. And he had his, of course, handler there, and they're awesome guys. And he chose me. And I mean, he didn't see me, but he chose me. And he came there and sat next to me every day. And man, we got along real well. And one of the last weeks, 2 weeks eating with him, and I look up, and there's a huge mural on the wall behind him, and it's of him. And it's of him doing a long jump with a blindfold on his eyes. And it says, his name, and it has like 6 gold medals. He set
and
records.
This is 2 weeks into like.
Yeah, I knew he was a big deal, but I didn't know who he was. And then I see it, and it's him long jumping and breaking a world record or whatever. And he has a quote next to it, and he goes, "The only thing in life that will hold you back is what you can see." And what he means is what you create for yourself is the only boundary that you're going to run into in life. So if you think you're not going to make it because of that or this, You probably fucking won't, right? Because you're not going to be confident in that, and you're not. And like, man, I mean,
hype, bro.
Dude, unreal. I mean, goosebumps every time.
Yeah, I got goosebumps.
And I'm over here trying to figure out how to make this damn team, and he's over here talking. He's in another place mentally where he's accepted that I'm gonna break my legs doing this stuff. I mean, like, I cannot see. But the fear within us is the only thing gonna hold us back, right? And so, get out there, do something that you don't like, right? Go start that company. Go talk to your manager about that pay raise that you really feel that you owe. Because at the end of the day, the worst thing you're gonna hear is no, or you failed, or it's not happening today. But at the end of the day, they now know you want that shit. And they're going to come, you're coming back to ask them again eventually. You better have a little bit better plan than no, right? Yeah. Putting pressure, speaking existence into things. And honestly, that's a huge thing that I just love in life is this is a painting that you want to make it, man. If you want to be limited, be limited. But here's the other thing. You only know what we know, right? So you need to get out, talk to people, expand your horizons, go travel, go do that stuff, man. Go party with somebody who you don't even know. Like, see what they're about, because they're going to teach you something. They're doing something better than you are. You should just grab those pieces. Those little balanceables. Those balanceables. Balanceables.
I like that. I like that for sure, bro. Wow. So, there's something for everybody in this discussion today, and what we spoke on. And just now when you were talking about that dude and how you guys were sitting together,
never talked about his gold medals. Never even alluded on to it.
Humility's probably.
I had no clue who he was.
Yeah, just that moment. That happened to you for a reason.
No, 100%.
You know what I'm saying? Like there was a reason for you to notice that, to be a part of that, to have him, like as you put it, chose you. Like he chose you that day. And those weeks, what have you, there's a reason for that, man. And the fact 100%. That's always going to stick with you, that moment, that experience, and how somebody that didn't have these limitations, bro. He didn't believe in them, right?
Well, think about what he went through, man.
Exactly. Put yourself in those shoes, right? And it's so amazing. It's so inspiring. You can get something out of everybody. And I truly believe in that. Like, everybody you come in contact with, there's something they can do better at than you, or something you can learn from. Yeah. 100% of the time. So being more aware of that and just truly attaching to the human side of people is what we need to see more of, man.
Give people a chance, man. Yeah, I always say that, man. Give people a chance, man, because you know what? I've met some of my best friends now that I hang out with most of my time, because everybody kind of, they were the rough ones, or or they're not the sharpest on the outside, or you get those friends, right? But those are my most loyal friends that if I needed to call something right now, they're going to be there before I am, and you don't need all friends that are loose wild. You need all types of friends. There's balanceables again, but that's important, man. Find that real passion, people. Surround yourself with people that challenge you. That's a big thing that we're kind of talking about, that Lions Club. I'm going to start just a networking club in Charlotte that for people who talk about stuff like this on their free time, people who are pissed off about where they're currently at, they're unhappy. Hit us up. You got David's information. You'll get my information on this. Reach out to us, man, because we're just people too. We ain't got it all figured out, but we're trying to put our stuff in the atmosphere.
Yeah, man. I think we're about there on time, actually. I'm just taking a look. So we got to
cut it off here, Dave.
We got to have a part 2, man. This is inspiring, and I'm just so motivated now. Like, before we met up today, he was like, we can hit the gym or something afterwards. I was like, heck yeah, man. But I do have an obligation today, but I do want to go work out right now, bro. I want to get after it with you right now, but we'll save that for another time for sure. But no, tell them how they can get in contact with you and touch base with any group, organization you're a part of, or what you're about, or where to look you up at if they want to have any questions for you or anything.
Yeah, no. First of all, thank you, David, for having me on the show. This is, I just support people who are trying to do things different. This is obviously, you see him And if you're following Dave, if you know him, his recent campaigns on social media, he's put himself out there, man. He's trying to cultivate something that's not been in his life. I'm always on board with that, so I appreciate what you're doing.
Bro,
absolutely.
Dude,
and you find me at, of course, LinkedIn, anything Matt Hughston, Hughston is my last name, but Houstonia is my IG tag. Hopefully you pop something up right here, right there. But Hughstonia. My agency is HPM Group _USA on Instagram. Give us a follow. We're uplifting in some of the most amazing men and women. We're starting our women's division really this year. We've already represented a couple of coaches. It's going to be big, man. I mean, there's professional leagues popping up all over the place. If you're a company that would be interested in learning more about their stories and supporting them on their Olympic journeys and their professional journeys and their professional coaching journeys, please check us out. HPMGroupUSA.com. We got our website out there, so don't be a stranger. Come through. Let us know.
Love it, man. Love everything you got going on. Love what you're about. I'm just so inspired. I just can't wait to see, what happens with you and with this and all the things you're about and how you're going to evolve.
Gotta put in the work.
I just see that you're on a mission. I love that, and everybody could get something out of this today, and I truly am thankful right now. I'm just thinking about how much love I'm feeling right now.
That's right,
how much
baby.
I care about this right now. This is why I'm doing it, man. Not only to inspire others out there watching, but to get inspired myself. And this truly did that for me today, and I'm so thankful in this moment. So I appreciate you, man. I'm looking forward to getting together with you on this again.
Yeah, let's do it.
Talking more in depth into it, checking in on the progress of everything, and just can't wait. But guys, make sure you follow, subscribe, look us up, ask us any questions, comment. We want to hear your stories as well. Let us know what's going on in your life, things that are motivating you, things you're struggling with or battling. We want to hear all that. We want to be there for you as well. And if you have a moment to just show some love, spread some energy, try to share this to somebody you think will get something out of it. But thank you guys so much. And Matt, so thankful, man. Thanks again.
Cheers, thanks for having me.
Know these dreams, I'm getting very close. Your work shouldn't feel like work if you really love it. If you set and you know your worth, then think if it's worth it. But I do count my blessings first, so you know I'm grateful every night. But watch me, baby, I'ma take it there. Tell ya I'ma stay the path. Tell ya I've been chasing all these dreams, I'm getting very close. Here we go.